2018 is already looking to be an awesome year for the amusement industry, and Six Flags being one of the largest amusement chains in the world, I'm sure we can expect some awesome attractions from them next year. So today I'll be predicting what all of those parks in the company will be adding. There's always something new every year, and so every year I try and figure out what could be up their sleeve. Will I be right? Will I be wrong? Only time will tell. Supposedly the official announcement will be at the end of August, so we'll stay tuned till then. So for this prediction video, we'll start with the largest parks and work our way back down to the bottom. So let's kick things off with the flagship park, Six Flags Magic Mountain. This year they added a Justice League dark ride. Great fit for that park, they really needed a dark ride. And a lot of people were talking about the possibility that Viper could be removed for a new roller coaster. However, seeing as none of that has happened, in fact, there hasn't even been any teasers from the park or any rumors of that removal, just kind of coaster enthusiasts talking about it. I don't think that will be happening, which leads me to believe that we won't actually be seeing a roller coaster at Magic Mountain next year. Instead, I would like to see some flats here. They fixed the dark ride problem, so now they gotta fix the problem that they have so many roller coasters and not enough flats. Right now, pretty much the only main thrill ride that they have is Lex Luthor. So add in of course it's Six Flags, so call it Wonder Woman, Lasso of Truth, a Zamperla Giant Frisbee. Put it even near Justice League. Heck, I mean, because they did retheme that as Metropolis, so that'd kind of add more to that area. And even something like what Six Flags Over Texas got with that second generation Enterprise. I mean, you could send that to Magic Mountain. As much as I'd love to see a Starflyer here, like a massive one, I've always wanted to see a 400-foot one here. I've heard that probably isn't too likely, so to me, some of these other flat rides are probably better possibilities. Next up, we have Great Adventure, and this one is really puzzling me. The park has actually teased there'll be a world's first. However, with them getting Joker in 2016 and no land removal yet or anything, I'm thinking that it isn't going to be a roller coaster. I'm also thinking that it isn't going to be a kid ride or a kid expansion or anything. I think we are looking at some sort of thrill ride, and if I had to guess a location, I think we could probably put it near Justice League because that did open up a whole new pathway. So they have a good amount of land there where they could pretty much put whatever they wanted. Again, that'd kind of help liven up that section of the park. So if I had to take a guess, we're looking at some sort of thrill ride. And maybe then Six Flags will take the opportunity to also expand their water park, Hurricane Harbor, next door. So, sorry guys, I don't have like an actual specific ride for this park. Again, it's really puzzling me. I'm curious to hear what you guys say in the comments. I know Skywarp has been tossed around, but because they have a Super Loop, I'm thinking that isn't going to happen. So I'm really kind of curious to see what happens here. Next is Six Flags Fiesta Texas, and actually we can completely skip this one because they beat us. They already announced what is happening next year. They're adding Wonder Woman, the Golden Lasso Coaster, which is an RMC Raptor. It'll be replacing Power Surge. I have a full analysis of it on my channel, so go check that out if you want to hear about Fiesta Texas next year. Next up is Great America, and of course they got a roller coaster this year, so they aren't going to get a new coaster. I actually think that this should be one of the parks that should receive a Funtime Starflyer. I know that Great America does have a height limit, however they can easily fit in a decent sized Starflyer within that height limit, and they don't take up too much land, so I think that is certainly possible. And of course, I mean, Six Flags America installed one this past year, so we know that Six Flags is still building them. So I wouldn't be surprised if at least one Six Flags park adds one. They are good thrill rides, and I'm kind of surprised that Great America doesn't have one at this point. And also, side note, I could also see them doing something to Hurricane Harbor with this park. You know, make it one of those dual investment years where you put in something to the dry park and to the water park. Kind of pleases both audiences. So next up is Six Flags Mexico. And I've heard the rumor that the Six Flags chain will be adding 2 SNS free spins next year. I think that Six Flags Mexico will be one of them. Will they call it the Joker? Probably. But I think that this is one of those parks that a lot of people kind of forget about because it's way down there. But I've heard that the park is absolutely beautiful, and they haven't done a new coaster since Medusa's Steel Coaster, and that was a redo, so this would be the first ground-up coaster in a while, so I think it would make sense. And again, they don't take up too much land, so I think that is a good possibility for that park. So let's move on to the first Six Flags park, which was Six Flags Over Texas. Now, going back to what I talked about earlier with Great Adventure about the Skywarp, I don't think Great Adventure would get one, but I do think this is a possibility for Six Flags Over Texas. This is one of those parks that does not have a Super Loop. And we know that a Skywarp was bought by someone, so we know Skywarp will be going somewhere in the world next year. I could see it being Six Flags, and maybe they send it to Six Flags Over Texas. It sounds like these will be more enjoyable than Super Loops, And Six Flags Over Texas has gotten some prototype rides in the past. I mean, they got the first ever RMC redo. Maybe they'll get the first ever Skywarp. So if I had to take a guess for that park, that's what it would be. Next is Six Flags Over Georgia, and I think everyone knows what is happening here. They'll be RMCing Georgia Cyclone. The coaster's already closed. Six Flags has done this in the past to some of their other coasters. They're going to rip out all the wooden track, replace it with steel, add in all these awesome new elements. It'll be great. And next we have Six Flags New England, and I see two possibilities here. The first thing is that they haven't expanded their kids area in a while, so I could see it being very likely where they have a pretty off year and just add a couple of kids rides. The other thing is the last time they expanded their Hurricane Harbor was in 2012, so it has been a few number of years. And Six Flags Fiesta Texas just opened the first ever water coaster, their Thunder Rapids. And from what I've heard, that is a pretty good ride. So I wouldn't be surprised if Six Flags decided to send one of those to another park. So maybe they'd send one of those to Six Flags New England Hurricane Harbor. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. But if that doesn't end up happening, then let me just say I do think that the Thunder Rapids water coaster, I think it's pretty possible that we could be seeing another one of those this year. Six Flags loves to clone things. Why not? Let's talk about Discovery Kingdom. This past year they got a flat ride, and the year before they converted Roar into Joker. So I think this year might be an off year, kind of dedicated more towards the families. I could see them doing a new animal upgraded habitat. Again, this is one of those few parks that is an animal park and a thrill park. So I could see them doing something along those lines, or maybe even add in a kid ride or two. But I think they'll be probably focusing on the smaller additions. So next is Six Flags America, and for a while people were talking about that they could be receiving V2 from Six Flags Great America. If that ride were to be announced to close, then they could send it to Six Flags America. However, it doesn't look like Six Flags Great America is going to be removing V2. It's kind of late in the year and we haven't heard anything, so it sounds like it's staying. So if that doesn't happen, then I'm going to guess that we'll probably see a smaller year, kind of like what Discovery Kingdom had. Likely some kid rides or something. Next up is St. Louis. And this, in my opinion, is where the second free spin will go. They haven't gotten a new coaster in a long time. In my opinion, they are well overdue. And while I'm sure the Six Flags St. Louis locals would rather have something better, I think the way things are looking, that probably won't happen. They're probably going to get a 4D free spin. I know there's been some talks that Tidal Wave could be removed. I could see that happening, and so the 4D free spin would go right there. If not, then maybe they'll take up a plot of land not currently being used. Let's talk about Great Escape in New York. This is one of those parks that could really use a new roller coaster, but will they get one? I'm kind of leaning towards no. As great as that would be, it just doesn't seem too likely. So if I had to take a guess, maybe some kids rides. They have added some thrilling flat rides in a recent history, so I'm thinking that this won't be a thrill-based year. But they've also expanded the water park recently, so that's why I'm kind of leaning towards some kids rides. But again, I could be proven wrong. That's just kind of what I would guess if they're kind of taking turns adding attractions to fit each genre of people. So last and certainly least is Ronde. And this is a park that I think has a lot of potential to get a new roller coaster because they are removing Cobra, which is a coaster that it sat in the back corner of the park. It was an intimate stand-up coaster. We know that that coaster is going to be fully removed, so you'll have that plot of land. And they also have a pretty narrow stretch of land over here, where if you were to add a coaster there, then you could actually connect the park and make it a complete circle. So I think you have two areas where you could totally add a new roller coaster. One is a very narrow plot of land, again, probably where you'd put something like a free spin, or if V2 were ever to get removed, you know, something along those lines. But Cobra, I mean, that you could put in a pretty good sized attraction. And I think everyone would love to see a new coaster go there instead of some flats. They did just add Titan this year, which was a thrill-based attraction, but they haven't had a new roller coaster in a while. I know Screamscape is reporting a super loop could come to Ronde. I personally don't think that that's very likely. I mean, they just got a thrill ride, so I feel like if they were going to add a ride for the thrill seekers, then it'd be on roller coaster level, not another flat ride. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Ronde will be one of those parks to receive a new coaster next year. We don't know how many parks in the Six Flags chain will be adding roller coasters. All we know is that some of them will be world's first or record-breaking attractions. Could Ronde get one of those? I mean, maybe. I think it's easy to say that the record-breaking attractions could be roller coasters, but remember, they might not be. But I think, like Great Adventure, Ronde is one of those parks that I'm a bit stumped on. The park hasn't actually done any teasing or anything, but just kind of based off of patterns in the history and what I'd like to see there, I could see Ronde getting a coaster next year. So those are my predictions for Six Flags next year, 2018. We'll just have to wait and see how many of them come true. Typically, it's pretty hard to predict what will actually be coming to a park. In the past, I've been right on some and wrong on others, and that's pretty normal. So I'm curious to hear what you guys think will be coming to Six Flags Parks next year. Let me know about what you think of my predictions. Am I just flat out wrong with some of these, or do you agree with me? Post that below, and of course, if you missed the Cedar Fair predictions, you can check that video out on my channel. And of course, when all the Six Flags rides are announced, I'll be doing breakdowns of all of them. So stay tuned for those, and I'll catch you guys later.